We're back for Your Ears Only. I'm David Alpern.
I'm Melissa Exelberth with a quote from the news. Horrific and unspeakable acts. That was Massachusetts District Attorney Jonathan Blodgett after a grand jury added charges of rape and armed robbery to one of murder against a 14-year-old boy accused of killing his teacher. Also last week, Kennedy cousin Michael Skakel was freed on $1.2 million bail, pending retrial for the murder of a female friend when both were teens in 1975. And charges of cyberbullying were dropped against two teenage Florida girls when prosecutors decided that their emails did not rise to the required level of a crime. But Miami Sheriff Grady Judd said the arrest had raised awareness, and I'm glad we did what we did. Now this.
This action is about sending a clear statement that our leaders here need to wake up, they need to pull up their socks, they need to actually act with the urgency that both science and extreme weather events are actually saying that we need to.
Greenpeace Executive Director Kumi Naidu led a walkout of environmental activists at the UN Climate Change Summit in Warsaw, Poland last week, following a walkout by developing nations over refusal of a financial settlement by the world's previous polluters-in-chief, the already industrialized nations. At least as important to human survival in the long run, for better or worse, may have been the announcement that China was easing its long-held one-child policy to better support huge generations of aging parents.
The critical climate population equation is explored in the new book, Countdown, Our Last Best Hope for a Future on Earth, from Little, Brown and Company. The author is Alan Weisman, whose previous take on the topic was The World Without Us, an international bestseller. And for Your Ears Only, Alan Weisman is on the line now. Welcome to the program.
Thanks very much.
To focus in on the fragility of life on Earth, you pretty much traveled all around it, speaking to experts and ordinary people. In how many countries, and which were the biggest and the smallest?
Well, for Countdown, I went to 21 different countries. And I would say the biggest, well, and that's sort of up for grabs right now, because right now it's China. But I also went to India, that within this decade is going to surpass China as the most populous nation on Earth. The smallest that I went to would definitely be Vatican City. It's only 110 acres, and it's only got a population of 1,000, and nearly all of them are males. Does that tell you something?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about the inexorable mathematics of human population growth. How quickly momentum multiplies it.
Well, you know, population didn't grow for 99% of human history. Pretty much as many people died as were born, and most babies didn't even live until they were 5, which must have been terribly sad for our ancestors. But then in the 19th century, we improved medical technology, starting with a smallpox vaccine and going through pasteurization of milk and all that, and our population crept up to 1.5 billion. But then in the 20th century, we doubled, and then we doubled again, largely because we greatly increased food technology. We learned how to pull nitrogen out of the air and slather it on the ground chemically, which before only a few nitrogen-fixing plants could make that contribution to the soil. And then we came up with Green Revolution plants, and we had an exponential increase in population. We quadrupled. That has slowed down somewhat, largely because we're urbanizing and people don't need as many farmhands in the city, so they don't have as many kids. But it's not slowing down quickly enough, really, to significantly reduce the impact that this abnormal number of human beings has on the planet. We're going to add 2.5 billion between now and the middle of the century, and we can barely feed the 7.2 that we have right now, and we're obviously pushing the atmosphere and the seas into uncharted territory.
And for all the protests and projects to slow climate change, you think it may be more effective in the long run to better control human nature, specifically the norms of family size?
Well, I think we have to do everything we possibly can. I am absolutely in favor of phasing out carbon-based fuels because right now there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than we've had in 3 million years. And back then, the seas were 80 to 100 feet higher than they are right now. And 15 million years ago, exactly the same scenario. So this is what we are looking towards. We don't right now have the uptake on renewable wind and solar. We don't even have mature enough technologies that are renewable to run industries, and particularly our vehicles, to meet most of our demands. I was just in Germany on book tour, and Germany is really trying to do this all with renewables, but they've got the best economy in the world. How are we going to get the whole world to afford doing this? But one thing that we do have the technology for is contraception. We know how to do that very well, and we could make a significant impact in our impact on the environment by, over the next couple of generations, gradually bringing our population down to a sustainable size.
What was your reaction to the change in China's one-child policy, and what message will it send throughout the region and the world?
Well, on the one hand, it's a really good change for China because their form of bringing population down was very onerous. It was coercive, draconian. No one in the world liked it. Most people were appalled by it. Most Chinese didn't like it. But the fact is that due to the one-child policy, there are probably 400 million fewer Chinese now than there would have been otherwise. And we also learned some of the downsides of what happens when you try to control population. What I found going to many different countries is that you can make the idea of using contraception very attractive to people and give them the opportunity to decide for themselves how many children they want, particularly when you educate females. They defer their childbearing until they're done with their studies, and then they've got something interesting and useful and skills to help their family's economy. You can't do that when you have 7 kids. So overwhelmingly, educated women have 2 children or fewer. So I think maybe we'll see a few million more Chinese as a result of this, but it's already culturally set in in China that 1 is pretty much the number. But this is also true in other countries that I visited who got to that point very, very differently and without any government coercion. And that's what I think could be a very hopeful thing for the rest of us.
Alan Weisman's new book is Countdown, Our Last Best Hope for a Future on Earth, from Little, Brown and Company.
Quote from the news, "He just pushed me out of my house and locked me out." That was a 9/11 call by the girlfriend of George Zimmerman, controversially acquitted in the killing of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. She also said he pointed a shotgun at her after using it to shatter a glass table. Zimmerman was subsequently arrested and released on $9,000 bail.
Next, bullying and brain damage inside the National Football League. For your